What are the 7 mistakes that you want to avoid when moving to Spring Hill, Florida? I'm Ross Hardy from the Hardy team, a local real estate expert, and I've helped over 2,000 families relocate to the Tampa Bay area and Spring Hill in particular, and I see people make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And sometimes it can end up costing them tens of thousands of dollars or mean they miss out on their dream home. So I want to make sure I give you the list so that you guys can avoid making the same mistakes and make your next home purchase or move as seamless and stress-free as possible. So please be sure to watch until the end. All of these are super important, but I'm going to get right into the video now. Now, mistake number 7 that we see people make when moving to Spring Hill is they don't do their research on sinkholes. And this can kind of go both ways. First of all, people hear the word sinkhole and they're just completely put off by it. They say, you know what, in that case, I'm not even going to look in Spring Hill. I don't want to deal with sinkholes. And the simple fact is that most homes that are designated as sinkhole homes are repaired sinkhole homes. So they've had underpinning or injection grouting done. They come with a transferable warranty in a lot of cases. And if you ask me personally, they're going to be safer than something that's an unrepaired sinkhole for sure, or maybe even potentially a home that hasn't been investigated yet that may have a sinkhole sitting underneath it. Now, like I said, I'm not an expert, and I've lived in non-sinkhole homes, sinkhole repaired and unrepaired sinkhole homes, and I felt equally at home in all of them. But because that's my opinion doesn't mean it has to be yours. I always encourage people to go online and do their own research. But simply just eliminating an area because you hear the word sinkhole may be a mistake. And then on the flip side of that coin, we have people that move to the area and have not done enough research on sinkholes. They say, man, I didn't know there was going to be this many of them when I moved here. So again, highly encourage you guys to talk to locals, talk to us, go online and do your research. I have several people who work in that industry who I can put you in touch with, but there are fantastic resources online where you can research it ad nauseum and get all of the information that you need. Just know that the amount of catastrophic sinkholes that swallow up homes in Spring Hill in particular are very, very thin on the ground. We've never had a house disappear into the ground into a sinkhole like the ones you may have seen on the news in Sefner and some of those other areas. Now, another mistake that people make when they move to Spring Hill or the area around Spring Hill is they ignore how far away they are moving from the Suncoast Parkway, which is the toll road to Tampa. If it's going to be important for you to have access to Tampa, whether you're looking to work down there or you're going to be visiting there frequently for the theater, for the concert venues, for the restaurants and stuff, you're going to want to make sure you're pretty close to that 589. Now, all of the places I've lived in Spring Hill have been pretty much within a mile or two of that 589, and I've had awesome experiences commuting to Tampa. My ex-wife actually used to work down in Tampa, so it was very, very important that we had that proximity to 589. But again, what I see people do is they fall in love with this community and they think, it's only an extra 15 minutes. That's not going to be a problem. But when you're doing it twice a day, it starts becoming laborious and people really wish that they'd moved a little bit closer. So be sure to check out where you're going to be going to the most and make sure if it is Tampa or some of those areas where you're going to need access to either the 589 or access to I-75 that you are close enough that it makes sense to be there. It may be that you decide Spring Hill's too far north of Tampa in general and want to move to an area like Wesley Chapel or West Chase or Carrollwood, Land O'Lake, Lutz, any of those areas. So if that's the case, be sure to reach out to us. We can give you information on those areas. But like I said, be sure to know what the travel times are, what the commutes are, and whether that's going to be sensible for you to do that on a daily basis possible or not. The next mistake that a lot of people make is ignoring new builds and new construction. They look at it and say, you know what, I want to be in a neighborhood that's a little bit more established, where the landscaping and the trees are a little bit more mature. And I get that. I've lived in those neighborhoods and I love that feel that is in there. But what they're ignoring when they do that is the insane deals that a lot of the new constructions are offering at the moment. So, first thing to say is that the prices of new builds versus resales are pretty much on a parity at the moment. You can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot home for pretty much the same on a resale versus a new. But here's where it gets a little bit different. First of all, if you're comparing a 1990 home to a 2024 build, the 2024 is going to have a brand new roof, brand new energy efficient AC, it's going to have the dual pane windows and at least R30 insulation. All of the energy efficiency standards are going to be met. There's also different hurricane standards compared to homes that were built 30 years ago as well. And most builders are given a 1-year warranty on all of the work as well. So you haven't got to worry about anything malfunctioning. And if you find anything after closing, you can get it fixed very easily. But then the other thing that builders are doing at the moment is they have more flexibility in what they're able to offer as incentives. So yes, you can go out and negotiate closing cost concessions on a resale. We're very successful at doing that on the team, and we have people apply those to buying down the interest rate or their closing costs. And then there are great programs out there as well from time to time, like Hometown Heroes, where you can get down payment assistance. But the builders typically are buying down the interest rate, if you use their preferred lender, to levels that far exceed anything that can be achieved by doing an interest rate buy down. And on top of that, some builders are even offering $15,000 to $20,000 for closing cost concessions. So I did visit a builder recently where they had an inventory home that was immediately ready for move-in. If someone could close on it in the next 60 days, they were buying down the interest rate to 4.5% for a VA or FHA loan and giving $15,000 towards closing costs. It's a great deal where home prices are becoming more and more unaffordable and people are trying to stretch their dollar. Plus, a lot of these new home communities have fantastic amenities. There's even some lagoon communities out there. So be sure to explore new builds. We visit the new builds all the time. We're always up to date with the latest inventory and incentives. Please reach out to us if you need more information on that. Now, the next mistake we see people making is just flat out buying the wrong type of home. Again, like I said, I've been doing this for 19 years, and not every time, but more commonly than not, this is what we see. We see people buy a bigger home in an area that they're not so keen on, as opposed to buying the smaller home in the area that they were originally dead set on. And then what might happen is the longer they spend there, they realize, man, I really wish we moved to that original area. And they'll end up listing their home 2 or 3 years later just to move to the area that they wanted to be in the first place. And I'll use myself as an example to the counterpoint here. When I moved to downtown Brooksville, which is just north of Tampa, originally we wanted to be there because we wanted to be able to walk to all of the bars and restaurants, walk to the bakery with the kids, ride our bikes to downtown, and walk to all of the events and festivals that were there. It was really, really important for us to be able to do that. And unfortunately, most of the homes that are right downtown, because they're in the historic district, they have a premium price attached to them. Now, we looked at some of the areas outside of the city of Brooksville, right downtown, where it would be just a very, very small drive in to get to those things, and we could have got a heck of a lot more house for our money. Ultimately, what we decided to do was buy a house without the home office, which was one of our key requirements originally, to be right downtown. And it turns out to be one of the best decisions we ever made. And the reason I was able to make that decision is because I've seen so many people do the opposite and live to regret it. So we always encourage people to really have a great idea of where it is you want to be and what you want that to look like, and then we try and find the home for you there. Don't be tricked into going for the gorgeous, nicer, bigger home in an area where you're sacrificing some of those amenities only to regret it down the line. And then the other thing to do is, if schools are really important to you, be sure to do your research to make sure you're in the right school district. So as I always say, niche.com and Great Schools are awesome websites to do that research, but please make sure you do it, because again, we've had people end up in areas where they're like, man, these schools are not great. Now I'm gonna have to find a private school or a magnet school for my kid to go to. And it's just another added layer of anxiety, where if they just did their research correctly in the first place, they wouldn't have those problems. So just to wrap it all up in a nice little bow, in my opinion, it's better to sacrifice just a little on the home to be in the area that you wanna be in, rather than to sacrifice the area that you want to be in to try and find the quote unquote perfect home. Mistake number 3 that most people are going to make when they move home is failing to take into consideration the additional costs of purchase, particularly if it's their first time buying a home or if they haven't bought one in a little while. So I'm talking about things like closing costs, moving costs, which have become so much higher since the pandemic. I'm talking about buying furniture, although please don't open up a new credit card with rooms to go and buy furniture when you're in the middle of your loan application process. That's going to cause all manners of problems. I'm talking about the HOA fees and the CDD fees that I alluded to earlier. Or I'm talking about the renovation costs. They underestimate the cost of renovating things or replacing things like the roof and the AC, because again, they've gone up exponentially over the last 5 years or so. So people can stretch themselves to the limit when purchasing a property and then forget that they have $15,000, $20,000 worth of closing costs, or that it's going to cost them $12,000 to move all their furniture across the country. And then they decide it's not even worth doing that, so let me buy new furniture. But guess what? The new furniture is just as expensive. And then, like I said before, sometimes these homeowners association dues can be $200-300 a month, and then the CDD fees can be $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 a year. All of these things add up, and at a time where people are trying to stretch their budget and get the most bang for their buck because of the way the home prices have been changing over the last 5 years, these are costs that people can sometimes just not pay attention to. So I want to make sure you do and you don't make the mistake that I've seen others make. Okay guys, so hopefully you're finding value in this video about the mistakes to avoid when you move to Spring Hill. Now this is by no means a comprehensive list, although I think it's pretty thorough. So please be sure to add a comment with mistakes that you've made or you think that people should avoid when moving here. Be sure to like the video, hit the bell for notifications and subscribe to the channel. I want you guys to be able to see all the newest videos when we release them. And of course, if you want more information about what it's like to move here, live here, or if you want a list of properties that suit your budget and location preferences, please be sure to reach out to me with the information below. We would love to talk to you more offline about what it might be like. Like I said, we're local real estate experts and nerds. We love helping people like you. There's never a time that's too early to start doing your research and getting some questions answered. Anyway, back to the video. Okay guys, now mistake number 2 that we see people make is by using the wrong real estate agent. And I understand it could be easy for me to set this up because I am a real estate agent, but believe me when I tell you that a bad agent can cost you tens of thousands of dollars on your purchase. There's barely a week goes by where we don't do one of our morning calls and someone says, you're not gonna believe the other agent on the other side of this deal. They did X, Y, Z, and man, their customer's not even gonna know that's cost them thousands of dollars. We truly do see it all. And I'll give you some very, very easy examples. I've had people come to me within a week of closing on a property where they were not aware that they weren't able to park RVs at the property. And it's really such a huge part of their life that they don't want to go park it up in a facility somewhere. They weren't told by the agent, they didn't do their own due diligence correctly, and it's cost them tons of money. If you're looking at waterfront properties, sometimes in areas there's direct access and indirect Gulf access where you have to go through a boat lift to get there. Guess what? If your boat that you have is bigger than what the capacity is for the boat lift, you're going to find yourself buying a new boat or not being able to get it out. Pretty expensive mistake again. And then how about buying a property on the wrong side of the street even? There's literally communities where being one side of the street to the next can affect the value of $15,000, $20,000. You might not readily notice, but the agent should do. So always reach out to an agent who has a full grasp of the area, knows what they're doing, and is not playing with your money. Now, like I said, our contact information is here. You can reach out to us if you have any questions. I'm gonna get back and talk about mistake number 1, and we can talk offline about this. And then mistake number 1 that we see people make, and again, it's really easy for me to set this up as a real estate agent, but it's that people don't get pre-approved in the correct timeline. We've seen people look at homes for months and months on end, and we've encouraged them to get their pre-approval letter, and they say, I'm good for it. When the time comes, I'll do it. And guess what? They go to get pre-approved when they're about 60 days out from wanting to move to the area and are ready to make offers on homes, only to find that they have a black mark on their credit for when they didn't pay their car payment 2 years ago that they totally forgot about, or they neglected to remember the student loans that they have that count towards their debt to income ratio. And all of a sudden they're not able to purchase properties and they have to go into a rental for a year. So please guys, there's never a time that's too early to reach out to a mortgage professional to talk about your options. They can talk about credit repair, they can help you clear up little marks on your credit that can be catastrophic if discovered at the last moment, but can be really easy to overcome if you do it in time. Also, if you're rushing around at the end, you might be forced into a loan that gives you a higher interest rate. It's going to cost you tens of thousands more dollars over the course of the loan. And I hate it when people end up shopping in a price point that's way above what they actually end up qualifying for, because they fall in love with all of these homes that are much nicer than they end up being able to afford, and they end up with a real dissatisfaction when they end up purchasing a property. So please, reach out to a local trusted mortgage professional. We have a list of people we can recommend to you, but it's essential that you do it in a timely manner so you know that you're going to be able to move when you want to. You can make sure you get the best loan that's available for you, make sure you're shopping in the right price point, and make sure that you're comfortable with the payments ahead of time. Okay guys, so that's gonna do it for the 7 mistakes to avoid when moving to Spring Hill. I hope you found value in this, and please, like I said, be sure to add any that you think I've missed. Be sure to like the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you can get notified of all the latest videos like this that we release for all of the suburbs or for the new home tour videos. I'm Ross Hardy from the Hardy team. It's time to love where you live.